Hello there, I'm Weather from the Summoner School Discord. I'm here to follow Kha'Zix, my friend, the Xayah in this game. And let me mute this real quick. There we go. All right, so a lot of the things that I like doing at the start of this, going over win conditions. Win conditions is something that I think that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to. This is going to be really impactful with a decision as an AD carry of whether or not you continue pushing your lane after you take the first turret, or you rotate mid, or you rotate top. It also tells you how much you should value dragons, how much you should be worried about jungle pressure, and stuff like that. It does tell you a lot about how you should be playing the map. I like to talk about them for a variety of reasons, but that is one thing you should be thinking about as an AD carry at the start of the game, looking at your comp and their comp. But of course, your comps tell you a lot more about just what you should be doing. What your team should be doing and what their team should be doing as a whole will play out a little bit differently depending upon which champions they select, right? So to know how to counter their play or to work with your team, it's a really good idea to start thinking about win conditions at the start of a game. So your team has Wukong, which is going to be, since he has Ignite, probably a split push up until like probably 15 minutes, and then he's going to be looking for team fights. Whether or not he goes to team fights with Mobies or he's going to be getting to team fights a different way, Ignite means he's going to be starting with you guys. Because if he has TP, that means he's going to be splitting and showing up late. Ignite doesn't, he's not going to be doing that. And if he wins his lane super hard with Ignite, that means that he's going to be able to probably draw extra pressure to that lane, which means you guys can get something even more without him. You're essentially going to be sacrificing them, though, every time he pushes up hard. So you need to make sure you're able to react to that. Warwick's got great engage, a pretty strong early clear, and a pretty strong counter jungle potential. But he's slow to clear his own jungle, which means he's going to have a little bit slower time coming top or coming bottom. He's always going to be a little bit behind a traditional jungler. His clear speed, just when it comes to things like Raptors, isn't good until he gets items. Echo is a champion that also really wants to split push at a certain point of the game. Normally I see them with TP. Since he doesn't have TP, I'm not sure if he plans on doing that, but he should be doing that. And then Xayah and Rakan is a very strong engage, crowd control, and lane. It's a really strong all-around just pick. I think Xayah is really underrated right now. She's in a good spot. Okay, so what does this mean your team as a whole is going to be doing? Well, eventually, after you guys either take your tower or lose your tower, you're going to have probably 4 of you grouped with the Echo splitting. That's probably what's going to happen. Now, however you set up for that is what you need to be thinking about. So whether or not this means that you decide to rotate mid to swap out the Echo so you trade lanes with him early-ish, maybe that helps him to get away from the Karma matchup. I don't know. But that's something that you should be thinking about. Their team with the Teemo, he's very immobile since he took Ignite and TP, but since they have TPs across the board, they have 3 TPs. I think Nautilus has the thing that lets him change his summoner spells. But anyways, this means you're going to have a lot of respect for whatever's happening on the map, because they can always send more people your way, which is not fun. Kayn has a very weak early clear. You shouldn't be too concerned about him. Karma's a lane bully. You shouldn't be too concerned about her. And this is all early game talk. Their late game talk, they're going to be controlling objectives with Teemo, so you need to be making sure you rotate away from whatever lane you think he's setting up on. Their poke is really strong, and their engage is pretty good with the Nautilus, but they only have Nautilus to engage. So it's, well, they also have Varus, but the Nautilus is the only one who can truly go in. Everyone else is going to want to just take the poke or delayed fight, the picks. That's what they're looking for. Nautilus is the only one who's going to be looking for a team fight. What this means is if Nautilus is in a lane and is playing aggressive, that means they have a numbers advantage on you. Okay. So as a whole, what I would be trying to do as AD carry for this game, they do have a good amount of wave clear mid, but Teemo into the Wukong is not a very fun matchup for the Wukong. If you can somehow rotate the Wukong away by doing either a 3-way swap or just going top early after you take your tower, right, that's how you're going to help this lane out. Teemo doesn't have a whole lot of wave clear, but he does have a whole lot of pressure. If the Wukong thinks he can kill him and does end up killing him, then that matchup obviously changes. Alright, so that was a long rant on win conditions and crap, but I think it's important. I am also really happy you're going out of your base early, but this is not a good habit. Whenever you're going out of base early, you always need to make sure you're providing vision. Whenever you're in a game, don't do this. If it's a competitive game, don't do this. If you're just doing an ARAM, well, not ARAM, but playing with friends or whatever, you're not trying to win, then this is reasonable. But if you're trying to win, you need to be doing everything in your power to win, and this is something that you can do. You can provide vision. Even though your jungler is not starting over here, you can provide vision to make sure he's not getting invaded. Always be looking for little advantages, and this is a little advantage. It's a simple thing to do. I'm watching your level 1. Okay, so your level 1 decision, right? Your level 1 decision is that you're going to shove this lane. You're not cheesing and you're not fake leashing. What this means is your idea is you're going to get level 2 first. If you're trying to get level 2 first, and that's your power spike, then you're not trying to hard push this. This is a typical mistake that people do. You want to push this just enough so that they can't contest your level 2, but that you don't push this all the way into their turret. Because a lot of the times whenever people are trying for this level 2 spike, it ends up being frozen around here for a wave until they get to level 2 themselves, and then there's no power spike, and you just wasted what advantage you could have created. This advantage that you could have created here could have been as simple as fake leashing, so that way they didn't know where the Warwick started. Could have been as simple as trying to cheese for a little bit of extra damage where you Q them or something over here. The Xayah level 1 with W is incredibly strong, and you can also be doing that with a Rakan really easily where you cheese this damage. Your choice over here, you need to be making sure you're managing this wave. And we'll see if you do. Nope. You see where this is going to get frozen? You're going to, in fact, probably lose out on... Yeah, you're not going to be able to go in on them. See this? So this is a wave management issue. This is something that it means you don't know how to pressure your advantage, or you don't know where an advantage is with the minions. Minions are a kind of a really well-crafted element of this game. Because they give you gold for last hits, it forces aggression in lanes. It makes it so you know when you can deny, and you know when people are going for trades, and you know when people have to step up to the wave. Right? That's the beauty of last hitting. But at the same time, there's another thing that these do. Their positioning for turret, their positioning for aggression and stuff like that, you need to start paying attention to. What you're doing right here is just shoving, which gives you lane priority to invade, but that is literally it. That's literally it. You need to make sure you're not just shoving blindly into them because you're not able to do anything with the way this wave is. In fact, since your jungler is taking such a slow clear after he does this, if their jungler knew that your Warwick invaded, there's a good chance that on their level 2, they could have come down here. And with the Nautilus's CC, even though you have like a ward out here, it's not guaranteed you'd be able to stop this. He probably wouldn't have his shadow to get through this wall, but there's a blast cone here that would get him through this wall. Nautilus flash autos, poles, and then slows. That could get them to you. So what I'm saying is this is a dangerous position if you're not doing anything with it. And the only thing you could do with it was invade. And watch your level 2. You're not going to be able to do anything. They're safe. So you have small positioning mistakes, but really good feather knowledge. So that shows me you've played a lot of Xayah, but your AD carry mechanics are a little rusty. And here's where it is. You're not even trying to get out of range. If he wanted to here, he could have autoed you. The only reason he doesn't auto you is because his Varus is really far back here, and they're still not level 2, and for some reason are just pushing up this far. They really shouldn't be doing this, but this is an example of a problem that shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't have to be this close to him. This is a very good route, though, and again, that's very good feather knowledge. It's just bad positioning. So, another little trick this is something that, from doing this many, many times myself, I kind of am able to figure out where a wave is going to go with certain types of pushes. But if your jungler was going to be doing a standard clear up to top and then recall and then come bottom, right? Level 3 gank bottom. Assume that's what he's doing. The way you're managing this wave is perfect for a level 3 gank. Because this wave, if you let it, you have complete control of how much this bounces to you. Maybe not a Xayah per se, because Xayah, if you use any abilities, is going to push the wave. But this does push to you just by the way the minions are here. So since I was kind of telling you about the level 2 power spike, you essentially have another power spike over here by putting them in the same situation you had, a vulnerability for a gank, right? Being vulnerable. But you actually could know your jungler's coming. That's only if you knew he was coming to cheese bottom level 3 gank. Very unlikely that they do that. More likely they come level 4. But again, the way that you set up that wave would give you complete control of this wave for a good while to come. You should still choose to just shove. There's nothing wrong with that because the Kane's over here dying. I agree with you shoving in because you know that their jungler just died. But you need to work on your last hitting when doing this. If you're doing this and you're not creating any advantage with CS, the only advantage you have is XP, and you're not able to do anything with where you're managing this wave. So your last hit needs to be improved, or your power spikes need to be improved. And there's that positioning again. Your positioning there was not respecting cooldowns. So there's a couple of mechanics to playing AD carry of positioning, right? For starters, the simplest thing is you don't let people walk into melee range. You walk back. The second thing is you need to be respecting cooldowns. Cooldowns that can be dangerous to you in this case. Varus is R and the Nautilus is hook. Those are the two things that really are dangerous for you in this lane. If they're up, you need to pretend that they're going to use them on you. The way this is lane set up right now, there's a minion in the way, so the Nautilus is essentially worthless if he has Q. And Varus doesn't have R yet, so obviously he's not going to R you. But you're not positioning yourself in a way that the minions are going to be able to continue to block for you. You step into a position where it's completely unnecessary, and you're not looking for trades. Another problem with the way that you're kind of just hard pushing this wave is you're choosing to do that instead of going for any harass. At this stage, you're going to need to get this last hit, but then after that, you don't need to worry about the minions, right? At this point, the way this wave is, none of these minions need to be last hit. So if you were correctly managing your resources, this is the time you could be going to trade with them. Right here, you don't need to last hit any of these. You could be looking to trade. And you see how much damage you do with, like, what? What was that, like 2 autos? If you do 2 autos on them, whenever you get these windows, you'll chunk them, and you'll force them out of lane. These instances that you've been engaged on, essentially, shouldn't happen. I probably would have greeted for that. You did the smarter move, but you healed. You don't need to heal there. Okay, so I think you need to worry more about how you're trading, and you definitely need to think more about wave management. Wave management with relation to power spikes, but also with relation to CSing and when to trade. Your cooldowns, you don't pay attention to cooldowns, and that's also a small positioning mistake. I don't know which one it is, if it's the positioning or uh, if it's not paying attention to cooldowns. Both are somewhat of a problem in that situation. You told me that if this was the disconnect game, that maybe I should be looking for a different replay. I'll let you know. All right. Well, I sent you a message. Hopefully, you're going to see that, and I'm just waiting for you to get back. In the meantime. So this is a problem, but this is not sure what exactly you can do here because your internet probably bugged out. I don't think this is really a rage quit situation. Okay. So you're back at level 3 when they're level 6. Um so I'm just going to talk a little bit more macro after this because you're very far behind, and this is somewhat a good thing too. A lot of the times this happens where it's not because of a disconnect, but maybe because you die early. This is an example of when you just somehow gave the enemy a huge lead on you, but not really. Like there's no goal disadvantage. The only thing right now is you're kind of a burden to your team until you can come back into this. And you just need to make sure you're not making things worse. Stop the bleeding. You're 34 CS behind. You're 3 levels behind, and there's nothing you really can do on the map. So this is actually a pretty good example for something that sometimes happens. It's not always that it's levels that are this bad or CS that is this bad, but this sort of thing does happen. Judging by the way the game is going, the Echo seems like he's in a very good spot. He's got 3 kills, and the Warwick's also doing pretty well. The Wukong's doing very well into the Teemo matchup CS-wise, even though he did end up dying once. I think it was to a gank, judging by the cane. I wasn't paying too much attention to that. What you should be doing here is paying very close attention to when you can get... Oh my god, your items. Uh... I really don't think you should have rushed that this game. Your items are not going to put you back into the game. Okay, and that's another problem. You have a lot of trinkets here. We'll talk about all of this in a little bit. Shoes is not something that's going to help you really get back into the game. It's going to help you avoid like some harass or force some harass, but it's not going to be a good play from behind item. It's removing damage that you could have. If you had enough to get shoes, I probably would have bought a coal or something like that. Something that would help you get back into it with like scaling money. Because this item is essentially putting you behind because you're not going to look for trades with this. This is only for running away, and you shouldn't have to run away if you play the map. So, okay, Cole. The second thing you should be focusing on is where the junglers should be. I haven't done any jungle tracking this game, and I don't think I'm really going to be able to. The jungle matchup kind of was fucked with the way that the Warwick invaded and he died. The Kayn died over here early. But because of that, it's all the more important to get vision to where you can track him. In a situation like this, where you're level 4 and your support's half-life, I probably wouldn't be looking to get any deep vision, so I think that I would just be shoving this into the turret and walking away and getting something maybe over here somehow. Like just ward over this wall and use the blast cone so he can't use that. Something like that would be the deepest vision I think you would be able to get. But anyways, if you're playing this far behind right now, where you have no combat items really, and you're levels behind, you need to make sure you don't die. So this wave is going to bounce the turret, and you just need to kind of leave the turret and wait for it to come back. This is a very risky spot. And there's my example. The cane shows up. And I know I told you it was a bit harder to track, but judging by what you were doing on the map and looking at the rest of the map, the only opportunity that the cane had to do anything, right? He could have potentially been getting Herald, yeah. But look at this. He's not going to be top lane right now. He's not going to be mid right now. And that only leaves bottom for him to have something to do. And if he's looking at inventories, he knows you guys haven't warded. You're really far behind. It was a very obvious Kang gank. It just didn't get played very well. So far, you don't respect cooldowns, your positioning needs work, you need to worry about your power spikes, minion wave management, worry about warding, jungle tracking, and knowing when to trade instead of just shoving. The Teemo backs out there for some reason. He should have been going aggro. And then the Nautilus misses his hook. Okay. You're not even trying to trade here whenever he's damaging you. Do you see the problem? Like, I really want you to see this. And just use this as an example. Watch your health bar and see what you're doing. You're not trading any damage back to him, and you're only shoving this wave in this terrible position. He has level 6 and could R you here. For some reason, he's not. But look at your health. That's like just 3 autos you gave him for free. What if he ulted you here? And this is the style that you have of just pushing the wave. If you're trying to lay down feathers while auto-attacking him. If you're trading autos, trade autos with him. There's a lot you could be doing to that. And this is a fight you shouldn't have been looking for to begin with because you were so underleveled. If you end up getting both of these kills, that's kind of just luck. That's also kind of just luck, but good luck, so take it. Alright, so here you come back to lane. And your items now, you still haven't bought any combat items. For an example of how do you know when it's not to take fights or when to take fights, right? You got 2 assists for that, but you still haven't been able to buy anything. And you know you've been missing out on waves of CS because at this point in the game, 11 minutes in, you should have around like 60 CS. Or more. Hopefully more. But you have 20. And I know it's partially because you've been disconnected. But you've also been dead once now. You've been forcing trades that you don't need to, and you've been missing CS that just from your shoving. Again, you just hard shove, and now you're in a vulnerable position to get ganked again. However, at this point in time, their jungler is probably going to be topside. This is the first little bit of tracking that I'm going to put into this video. You can track the enemy jungler up until probably around 12 minutes, just barely there, right? Till their second or third clear, whatever this is, I don't know. But by the hourglass on the minimap. Whenever it's yellow, you can assume the enemy jungler is going to walk to that side of the map. See? Whenever it's up, you can assume the enemy jungler is there. Because this, you're able to generally play pretty safe with knowing where the jungler should be. Now, After a point, the lanes start taxing jungle camps and they start giving away red buffs and blue buffs, so you can't use that logic to track the enemy jungler past, like, probably this is the last clear you can actually track. After this, you're not going to be able to do it. Again, because of the taxing thing. But you're able to do your pushing thing because you know where he's going to be. Interesting. So here's a little problem that the Rakan has of not warding this whenever we go in for this fight. If you have trinkets and you're going to fight somewhere, always, always, always trinket the bushes that you're going to be fighting in. It prevents exactly this from happening. Shouldn't walk back into that. It's not that at this point, it's not that you're under leveled, it's that you're out itemed. You see Kayn top, so it's safe to stay. This is something that you should very much so be aware of. Every time, look at the minimap. Every time you see something different, it's hard to explain other than just saying, look at your minimap. But because you see the jungler's topside, if he just like beelined at bottom, you at least have a minute to do whatever the fuck you want. And the Karma, even though she could roam, she's got like 30 seconds if she just beelined it until she comes bot. So you're okay pushing this. Always pay attention to the minimap. It tells you what kind of plays you can do, what kind of waves you can stay for. But you really need to work on your CS because a lot of that was free and I saw you miss some of it. This is a little bit risky, but you did just see the Kayn top. This isn't that bad. This is an okay idea. You don't see the Karma coming over? Oh. Alright. Yeah. You didn't set up any wards when walking over, so you didn't see that they were coming for you. And they did have it warded. Did they have it warded? Oh, no, they just saw you go on this one. That's what they did. Alright. Yeah. This was an okay idea. It was okay. Personally, I don't really think dragons are that valuable, but there wasn't a whole lot else for you to do. So, it's okay. Rakan, you really shouldn't be building a blasting wand. These builds are very interesting. Wukong's just getting all the swords. Yeah, because you got dragon earlier, you gave up your turret. You shouldn't have had to have given up your turret there. It would have been much cleaner if the Warwick had come bottom, but you can't. You cannot expect the jungler to do that because you were doing that alone, and that means that you expected to do it alone. That's not paying attention to your feathers. Hmm. Hmm. You got to work on your feather recalls, actually. You should have had that. Definitely should have had that. It was nice for a con, but that's not enough. Oh, it was enough. Nice. All right. So far, your problems, you don't use your trinket very efficiently. You don't know how to use waves to power spike. You don't know how to trade. You don't know how to watch for cooldowns. You don't know how to predict where the enemy jungler is because that one time you did get ganked, you should have been very aware of it. You seem to just blindly push into turrets without expecting what kind of damage exchange you can do. Like right here, the fight that you just took, you knew that they were going to show up for this tower, and you knew you weren't going to get the tower, but you were still pressuring it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? But you didn't know where a lot of people were on their team, and Kane ended up coming, but he probably could have come soon. Anyways, you blindly push is what I'm getting at. And that's something you should be a lot more concerned about. You need to be tracking the enemy jungler whenever you push. You need to be concerned about power spikes whenever you push. You need to be worried about like trading damage because you just took so much free damage whenever you were just pushing. Your positioning needs some work. You let people get into melee range. Your feather recall has been hit or miss. You had some good ones. You had some bad ones. Let's see. You're level 1. You also need to be providing vision. This is good. This is good patience. You see the Kane now, but he could have been staying for you. Alright. Warwick is giving you guys a lot of attention to get back into this game. That's really nice of him. You guys are a pretty big part of your win condition, though, so it would make sense that he's giving you all this attention. This is some of that blind pushing, though. Do you see all these people that are alive? There's one of them. There's two of them. What about 3 and 4? Am I going to see 3 and 4? There's 3. Okay, so a lot of the times I only talk about this whenever I'm talking about playing engaged champions. But this seems to be a problem for you just based off of how you push and how you just kind of accept some fights. You need to work on your counting. And I don't mean to say that in like an insulting way. I mean to say it in like there's a unique way you need to count. You need to count 2 ways, and you need to count these 2 ways every time you're going to do anything. In your case, auto-attacking a turret is when you need to count. What is the minimum amount of people that can show up for your team? That's the first way you count. In your case, the minimum was the Warwick and you, 2. The second way you count is what's the maximum amount for them that can show up. With combining this with map knowledge and stuff like that, you're eventually able to better predict this. But the maximum number there was definitely 4. So that was a fight that you couldn't take, and even though you got some damage on this turret, I guess in this situation specifically, this wasn't too bad of a play, even if you had died here, because there was no dragon up, and then Wukong would be able to probably take top turret, because if they sent everyone bottom, he would be open up here. So it wouldn't have been bad to die here, but it is giving them gold. The second way you count is the maximum for them. The maximum for them, as you can see here, was at that time 4 and is soon 5. That's how many people they're sending for you. 2 ways to count. Count both of those ways every time you're about to attack a turret. After that, you can start thinking about whether or not it's worth it. In this case, it was alright. You got half the turret's health, and if they send everyone down here, you're also going to get top turret. So yes, this was worth it. This was a good play. But you were staying for this fight that you could have just walked out on. You could have just walked out on this fight. And you needed to just walk out. That would have played out exactly the same for you to just walk out as whatever happens here. All of this, for example, if you had just backed out, would have been exactly the same up here. Would have been exactly the same up here, but you wouldn't have given them 4 kills. And that's something that you can do with just counting. knowing whether or not you can stay for something, and then allowing your team to do something else on the other side of the map. This is something that you can kind of predict what they're going to do, right? You know what Wukong wanted to do. He was on this turret. He was going to stay for it. Doesn't have TP. It's not like he was going to get to this or show up to this, right? So what you knew you were going to do is you were going to force everyone down here, which was the good part of this play, and just let Wukong take this and then walk away, right? Walk away once everyone starts coming bottom. Waste their time as they come for you, but don't let them get you. Walk away. You probably would have done a third of this turret's health instead of half of it if you properly walked away. That was a pretty good dragon take. Right now, though, this is whenever a different element of the game comes into play. At lower elos, it's typically harder to do this right away just because there's difference in gold that you have. Like at 20 minutes, remember how I said you should have had 60 CS at like 11 minutes? You should have like 150 at this point in the game. You have like half of that. So you obviously have a little bit less gold than normal at this stage of the game. But anyways, what I'm trying to get at, with a little bit of flame introduction, I guess, is Baron's up. And at 20 minutes, it's amazing how easy it is to do Baron. But this changes the way you should play the game as AD carry. Because your objective as AD carry is to take turrets and take objectives, right? Take turrets and take objectives. And then, of course, sustain DPS for fights and stuff like that. But, there's a lot of other things that could be sustained DPS for fights. Why specifically an AD carry? Why? Because specifically this shit and this shit. Specifically AD carry. So what you need to be doing to set up for Baron is have a wave slow pushing bottom, which is going to require the enemies to respond to it. They're going to eventually come down to CS it, right? And if they don't, they're going to just lose all that money and lose a lot of turret health, right? That's what's going to happen. So this wave is already set up. After you had set up this wave, if you're wanting to end this game sooner, right? The true play you would do here is create a numbers advantage by going to Baron. You would go to Baron, and you would let these minions get closer to the turret. You probably have the Varus show up for this. Probably have the Karma show up for this. Someone would show up for this. And you would be over here. You would pick these guys off because the Wukong's already over here, right? At that time that you went from Dragon and are walking away, you could have easily walked to mid lane where they have no vision, walked up where they have no vision, walked up, started this fight. The play you're doing, pushing these minions in, gives them Baron control. And if I was their team, I would have willingly traded this turret for Baron. Luckily, your Wukong's doing pretty well, but this is something that you need to be concerned about. The way you win games as an AD carry is turrets and this. This is how you get turrets. Currently, you're not rotating at all. You need to try and add that to your playbook. I know that you're a little bit behind this game because of the earlier disconnect. I also know you're a little bit behind because CSing and you only have assists while the Varus has 10 kills. So there's a lot of reasons you might be avoiding a team fight. It makes sense. But you have no rotations in your current playbook. So you should start thinking about that. A rotation to Baron would be very beneficial at this point in the game. Here's your first rotation, but it's only for CS. I know what you're doing. And you pick up a nice kill. That was good. This is excellent. Never mind. I take that back. This is excellently, very well done. Rotating for the objective. I don't know if this was all planned out. We're going to go get mid turret, but this is exactly what you would have wanted to do with the way that the map was set up. Okay, I should just go back to your vision. Whoops. Now that you have mid inhibitor down, and I see that you do end up getting Baron, so that means you guys do think about it. Oof. Another thing you need to be thinking about is you shouldn't be using Xayah's ult generally for damage. It's so much better to be used as like a peeling tool. It's a spell shield. You could use that to dodge things. It's really, really useful to dodge things. Try and not use it for damage. It's the equivalent of like an auto attack. Yes, it does lay down feathers, but you can lay down feathers with an auto attack. Q auto and you've done the same thing as putting down your ult because not all of your ult or feathers are going to hit them. I'm really happy that the Warwick's actually focusing this. This demonstrates how easy, though, it is to do Baron. Right? Two people, their AD carry that has 100 CS was AFK for 5 minutes and has, like, no real kill pressure, no real kill, like, gold, and no lifesteal, right? This gives you an idea of how easy it is to do Baron. 2 people, 25 minutes. 3 people can do this at 20 minutes. Start adding this to your playbook. Come to Baron early. Set up those waves that you were doing. Come to Baron. Coming mid here is completely a waste of time, though. The mid inhib's already down. This is just an ARAM behavior. No reason to be mid at all. You're just asking to die. Yep. Rakan had the right idea, though. Wukong had the right idea, though. Now, this is something that I'm guessing you just weren't thinking, right? You weren't thinking about the I don't know, maybe that's a mean way of putting it. Whenever there's something like 2 turrets left on the Nexus, there's no real easy way for you to siege this. You're really not going to siege this. If you have Baron up and an inhibitor down and both the Nexus turrets up, always be looking for your second inhibitor. Always be looking for it. In this case, the bot wave, since this thing was already almost dead and the bot wave was huge, would have been a great choice to go to. It also would have made it so that way you had 3 people in that lane and were furthest away from the Wukong, meaning that they couldn't rotate from this to the Wukong easily. You would then want to wait for these minions to start stacking up. So basically by playing way back here, not letting them engage on you, waiting for the minions to stack up so that way someone had to respond to it, and then you had your 3v3 over here, you had your 1v minions, and you had your 1v1. That's what you wanted to set up. But instead you just went down middle, which means that you weren't really thinking about your playbook, right? Your playbook is to take that second inhibitor. Everyone was alive. It's not like you're going to be able to siege these turrets. It's just not going to happen. You waste a little bit of time there, and I think that largely this means you're not planning your moves very far ahead. It seems like your play is very, very reactive. The way you kind of go back and forth here means that you don't know what to do. And you're trying to still think through it. Your play to get Dragon, while you're walking over to get Dragon, you need to be thinking of your next move. Your next move would have been to push bot lane, right? That's what you're doing over here. This is an okay move. Also would have been an okay move to go mid. But going back and forth means that you're not planning ahead. You need to plan ahead. You'd be surprised how much of this game is strategy. It's not team deathmatch, it's strategy. And the game's pretty much over here. Because now they do have one dead. You're able to just walk over to this, take your second inhibitor. Right, here's your playbook. Second inhibitor. Alright, yep, game's over. Alright, so highlights again of what I think you should work on. Your minion wave management for both power spikes and CSing. You just hard shove. Also, that's disrespectful for junglers. You should worry about timers. You can ask me later. I'll be happy to tell you about timers more. Um, you need to worry about cooldowns and positioning with respect to both how you're hiding behind minions from hooks and how you're not letting people get into melee mode. Walking away is fine. Walking away without auto attacking is fine. But letting them walk to you in melee mode is not okay. Alright, next, you don't use your trinket correctly or enough. A lot of the times when you had vision out here, I think that there was only one time I would have really said that the jungler could have ganked. By following jungle timers, you'll start to realize when you'll need a ward here and when you won't. By yourself, in solo queue, in general, one trinket is enough. Especially if you have zombie ward to keep you safe. You don't need both people to worry about this, which is kind of the beauty of tracking the enemy jungler. The only way you track the enemy jungler, realistically, is by two things. The clock and those little indicators on the minimap. Those two things. And then, of course, where you see them next and blah, blah, blah. Your build also is problematic from both playing from behind and also just never really want to rush completed Berserker's Greaves. Because whether or not you can chase a fight or run away from a fight, you're not going to be able to impact the fight with that kind of build. I would also recommend your starting item being something like, if the way you're playing, just shoving and not looking for trades, you should probably be starting the Relic Shield meta. Whether or not you hate it, it's the way that the meta currently is. So it would probably be a good idea to play a part of it. Your rotations are pretty poor. You had one amazing rotation, but I've seen you just go middle and push this whenever you were kind of blindly doing it right after you got the Baron and then you lost it. I saw you sit bottom for a little while longer than you should have, and I don't think you ever thought about top lane or ever thought about Baron until your team pinged it. So you need to add these other things to your playbook. The one mid rotation where I think you were just going for the CS, I may be wrong, but I think you were going for the CS, ended up with a really good rotation. You need to worry about your counting some more. You're counting the two ways. Always count the two ways before you hit a turret because you do not track the jungler correctly, and that will make you track the jungler. Two ways to count before you hit the turret. Always count two ways. After that, your trading needs a lot of work. It seems like you always do the second hit. You're not the first hit. And a lot of the times, the first hit is what really starts a fight. It's the engage, right? And you can lose or win by one auto, and you're not trading these autos. I'm referencing the fight that I played in slow motion. That's why I'm hovering over this area. Where the Varus got like 4 autos off on you and didn't ult you. You would have died there if he ulted you. Easily. Super easily. But he didn't for some reason. And you weren't trading damage. That's why he was able to do that. Part of that also is because you had just your shoes at that point. You're a little bit disrespectful for when you last saw someone. There was a time that the Kayn was over here and the Warwick killed him, but the Kayn could have been coming back for you. I would have expected the Kayn to be waiting around for you, and I was commenting, I think, at that time that you were being respectful, but then you stepped up anyways. But you stepped up as Kayn was seen, so it wasn't a huge issue. I just don't know whether or not that means you're paying attention to the map. You need to. And if you want like a guidelines to how to trade and stuff like that, it's really hard to teach you how to trade through just watching your play. You have to see some good examples. But keys to it is knowing when they're going to last hit, when you need to last hit, what abilities they have, and what resources they have. That's like mana or health and potions and stuff. Sustain. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I really got for you here. That's still plenty to work on. I think the biggest things that you would see improvement from is that you start tracking the enemy jungler and worry about your counting, because it seems like your main problem is you just hard push, and that might be where you end up in a bad situation. And learning windows to trade. Windows to trade where you're not just blindly shoving, but also whenever you see that there are minions that you don't have to last hit, and instead you can go to auto them. Or whenever their hook is down, and you go to auto them. Windows to trade will help you a lot. So jungle tracking, counting, and knowing when to trade will be the biggest improvements for your play. Following that would be your rotations. I don't know how much your rotation was intentional over here, but you had a very good window to Baron earlier, and you weren't thinking about this. So this is specifically what I'm talking about when I talk about your rotations. You had an okay mid rotation, but it seems like you're not focusing Baron. It felt like you were just following the ping. And you need to be setting up a wave like you had set up, and when I was first talking about this, to go to Baron. You have a lot of focus on dragons. I don't feel like you really had any bad times that you did this, because there was never anything else to get on the map. You did end up dying for it, and I don't think that it's worth it to ever die for dragons, so I mean, like, it happens, though, I guess. Alright, so that's the end of this. I hope some of that was helpful. No flame, and I'll see you around, man.